whenever I do an action movie on this show, I will try and describe the fight sequences as best I can, but I cannot promise that I will catch every tiny detail in every fight sequence.
There's a lot of anonymous people dying. That
Yes.
like any action movie, there's just a lot of random extras dying.
Right. What's poppin', y'all? Welcome to Post Finale. I'm your host, Ankit Madhira. I'm an actor and a singer who has not seen a lot of films, so to make my friends happy and potentially provide a new perspective on some popular films, I am on a quest to change that. I'm never on this journey alone, however. This week, I'm joined by an amazing stand-up comedian, an actor who you may have seen in Undercover Comic, the co-host to the podcast Horse and Away Games, and another person who is not afraid to admit to the world that they are a Chicago Cubs fan, Adam Mamawala. Adam, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Of course. Now, are you a Cubs fan?
I am a Cubs fan.
Okay. All right, nice. Hey, I feel more optimistic than I have the last couple of years, so that's something, you know.
I do too. I haven't felt good the last couple of years as a Cubs fan.
No, yeah.
2016 was great.
It was the best. It made it all worth it.
It was incredible. But yes, Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for making the time. We're here to talk about The Matrix. Now, you picked this as one of the films when I reached out to you. Why this film, and what keeps you coming back to this film? Do you remember your history with the film?
I think, I saw it when it first came out. I believe it came out in 99. I could be wrong about that, but I think it was 99. So I was in like middle school at the time. And I think the reason that I like it is that not only have I seen it a number of times, I actually got to see it again in theaters like a couple of years ago. They did like a re-release in theaters, which was cool. But it's one of those movies that like combines genres in the sense that it's like there's a lot of tech involved. There's a lot of visual effects and that sort of thing. But it's also a very like heady sort of movie. Like I kind of put it in the same category as Inception, where it's like you're going to appreciate the visuals, but there's also a lot that's going to make your brain kind of hurt thinking about it. And I think I've always gravitated towards it for that reason. Also, it holds up. Like the story is still really good. The visual effects are still surprisingly good when you watch it now 25 plus years later. I think it's that nice kind of middle ground between like action movie but also something that makes you think.
Okay, nice. Yeah, I don't know much going into this film, so this is what I do know. I know that I do know that Keanu Reeves is the main character, and I think his name is Neo. It might be Nero, but Nero's also a Roman emperor, so I'm pretty sure it's Neo. Okay, Neo, yeah. It is Neo. Great. So this is what I knew going into it. And then I do know that the concept of The Matrix is that it's a simulation. I don't know much past that. And it's like, I do understand that the world is a simulation and then something's happening around this concept. This is what The Matrix is. I know that there is a red pill and a blue pill. I do not remember which pill does what, but I know that one pill, I'm guessing, is you can go back to sleep and everything is fine and dandy and you will forget everything that happens and whatever. Or the other one is you now know the truth and you see the simulation for what it truly is.
Right. Now you said I don't want to spoil anything, so you said you've gotten up to the scene where like that is happening, right?
That has happened.
The two options. Okay.
That is the last thing I have seen.
Right. So the whole, and the way Lawrence Fishburne, who's great in this movie, presents it, he plays Morpheus, is like, if you take this pill, you will go back, you'll wake up in your bed, you'll remember all of this, but you can believe whatever you want to believe. If you want to think that it was a dream, you can think it was a dream. Or you can take this other pill and I'll show you the truth, right? So that's kind of the concept. And again, I guess, have you seen the film Inception?
No.
Okay. So it's a lot of that same, I guess add that to the list as well, but it's a lot of that kind of discussion about like, if something feels real, is it real, right? Like if you've had a dream that feels so real that the only reason you know it's not real is that you wake up. If you never woke up, how would you know that it was real or not? That's kind of the like central question of the film.
Yeah, It's a very interesting question, and we'll definitely dive deeper into it probably later when we get to that scene. Because I have a lot of questions, as you were mentioning right before we hit record. But yeah, it has a lot of questions. But the only other thing I know about this film going into it, he dodges bullets in a really cool, really easy way, doing like this cool backbend. I have no idea if that's in this film or one of the sequels, but I know he does it.
That will be in this film, and
Okay.
I would posit that you do not need to see any of the sequels.
Okay. Great.
I remember them being fine, but like almost like Jurassic Park, like any of the subsequent ones just never needed to happen. I think it was like this movie made a ton of money. They realized how much they could monetize it, and then they're like, let's make 1 million of these.
Okay. So I'm good watching this one. I don't necessarily...
Yeah, some people might disagree, but I think the first one is like the definitive best one.
That's fair. That's why I usually start with the first one if it is a series, and then I'm like, that's all right, important. We'll see what happens, and we'll see if we continue it. Yeah. Let's jump into the movie. I'm excited to talk about this. So we start, and immediately we see code on the screen, and the score at the beginning, extremely ominous, and we immediately get the title card, The Matrix. I love this. There's no time to lose. Here's the title. Let's go. Like, we have a story to tell you. We hear a phone call, and we hear a woman's voice asking if everything is in place. A man's voice says that she wasn't the one that was supposed to be relieving him. She feels like taking a shift, and the guy just says that the girl likes watching him. And I'm like, who are you watching? I feel like it's Neo. This feels like who we should be watching. I know he's the main character, so it feels like this is who we're watching him. And then the guy turns around and says, we're going to kill him. You understand that? And I was like, okay, maybe they're not watching Neo because I know he lives. I don't know who we're watching right now. The woman says that Morpheus says that he is the one. It doesn't matter what she believes. And this guy guesses that she doesn't actually believe that he is the one, whatever this one is. And the woman asks then if the line is clean because she hears some ticking sounds coming through. And then we start zooming in on some numbers, and numbers are starting to lock into place, which hasn't been happening as this opening sequence is going on. And the guy is pretty sure, and the woman doesn't believe him for good reason. And we zoom in on the number 506. Still don't know what this means. Don't know how this comes back to us, but I feel like it needs to. And I just wanted to admit, like, incredible transitions to switch from code into switching into a flashlight. Like, incredible transitions.
Also, let it be known that and I sense that you're probably a bit younger than me, but in the late 90s, early 2000s, that was the screensaver to have. If you had those like running numbers as your desktop screensaver, you were pretty cool.
Oh, we had it. Yeah, I am right on that lovely little cusp where technically, because I'm born in 97, so technically I am Gen Z based on the year I was born. But everything the way that I have been brought up was I connect so much more to a millennial. So I'm like right on that cusp where it's like depending on how you grew up and what your household was like. Some people that I know that are my age very much relate to Gen Z, and some people like me very much relate to like. And I also have an older sister, so that probably played a factor into it. Yeah, so that makes sense. Yeah. But yeah, we definitely had that screensaver. Like that was there. But yeah, the opening scene, very good. I very much enjoyed it. I'm locked in, interested from the beginning. Who is this man? Who is this woman? And why are we watching him, who I'm now assuming again is Neo? I'm confused. Already I'm confused, and I'm 2 minutes into this film. Who exactly is Morpheus? I know that it's Lawrence Fishburne, and I am excited to see Lawrence Fishburne as Morpheus, because I have heard that it is one of his most iconic roles as an actor.
He's great.
So, and I'm confused on what's going on. Are they fighting someone? Are they fighting something? That's what I'm imagining is going to be happening. And like, okay, I'm guessing it probably isn't a secure line, but why is 506 important? And I appreciate that you can't say a whole lot because spoilers, but yes.
I will tell you though, having seen the film many times,
yeah,
I don't know if there is a significance to 506, or if there is, if I have just, I'm not like up to, I don't know what it means exactly. So
Fair.
as far as that specific number is concerned, it may have significance, but if it does, I don't specifically know what it means. But all of the other questions that you have will be explained. And I don't think this is really giving too much away. You will notice that there's a lot of like kind of biblical references in this film. There's a lot of the idea of like, we're looking for a savior and for like one special person to like, bring us salvation. And I'll let you figure out what that ends up meaning.
Yeah, I don't know what salvation is, but we're looking for it. And it's interesting because we have two sides that are looking for the same person almost.
Right.
And so, yeah, we transition into a flashlight. We're at a police raid to room 303, and it looks like a rundown motel. The police bust down the door, and they capture this woman who raises her hands as, she's being caught by the police. Some men in suits show up and say that the lieutenant had specific orders. And I did write this down as a specific quote because I don't know what type of lieutenant would ever say this to a superior officer, but he says, "Don't give me that juris my dictation crap."
Mm-hmm. Like maybe that's how people talked back then, or in whatever world this is.
As someone who was in middle school, is that how people talked in 1999 to the superior officers, to your knowledge?
That I can't speak to. I was never in law enforcement in the late 90s.
So sad. I mean, you were busy shooting a basketball and playing tennis, I guess.
It's true, exactly. Yeah. Yes. I had things to do.
Yeah, you had more important things to do. But like, I don't know if anyone does this now, but if you are, just PSA, maybe don't talk to your superior like that if you want to keep your job.
Not great.
Not great. Not fantastic. So the lieutenant scoffs and just says that they're pretty sure that they could handle one little girl when the suit says that the orders were for their protection. And the suit moves and just coldly turns and just goes, "No, Lieutenant, your men are already dead." And I was like, oh, those poor police officers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and then we fight immediately. And this is where I clocked, this is an action movie, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, big time.
So, yeah, didn't really clock that. I probably should have, but I didn't. So I will say this as my general, whenever I do an action movie on this show, I will try and describe the fight sequences as best I can. But I cannot promise that I will catch every tiny detail in every fight sequence.
There's a lot of anonymous people dying. That like any action movie, there's just a lot of random extras dying.
Right. Perfectly fine. I might miss like one of the random extras in like the extravagant way that they have died.
Sure.
There's a lot going on, and if I tried to get every single one, I would never finish the prep work for this episode.
Yeah, if you're trying to do like a full body count, you're going to just waste a lot of time.
Yeah. I think we're probably at like a solid 8. Seems like a nice number. That seemed like the number of cops that was in that room. Let's go with 8. Yeah. So we cut to this lady. She breaks down the cop's arms. She smacks him in the face, breaking it, and then jumps in the air. The camera does an entire spin while she hangs in the air, and then she front kicks him across the room.
Oh, yeah.
Incredible. I am now wondering if her jumping in the air and then the spinning, like, was she actually like suspended in air for that amount of time that we see as the audience, or is that a camera trick? And I feel like this will be explained to me a little later. I don't know if you can really answer much about this, because I'm thinking that her jumping in the air, she is actually suspended in the air for that period of time.
Yeah, I think the best way to describe it without like giving very much away is that you will learn that different rules and like laws of physics apply to different characters in the film.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, because immediately afterwards, physics breaks. So, sure. Yeah, physics is already broken. She then kicks a chair with enormous strength. I don't like this chair kills a person in her kick. Like, incredible. Runs on a wall to avoid bullets. Physics is already broken, so I have given up on physics for this movie. And then we have guns, knives, they're dead. this is what I put together in that
Yeah.
bit.
Well, the thing is, physics aside, like any action movie, there is a lot of how are these people this bad at aiming? Where it's like, if there's a million bullets, I cannot imagine that one does not hit this person. But let's just accept it because it's an action movie.
It's an action movie, accept it. Let's go. Yeah, do not try this at home.
No. And by the way, the actress is Carrie Ann Moss. She's a very good actress. She was in Memento, I think, is another thing that people would know her from a lot.
Okay.
But she's like, she's been around and she's very good in this movie.
Nice. I think I've seen her in something. I do not know what, because I specifically don't look up anything other than the runtime and where I can watch the movie. So those are the two things that I look up going into any of these films. Is just, how do I access it? What's our runtime? All right, let's go. So yeah, I did recognize her face. I don't know from what. And it definitely wasn't Memento, because I haven't seen that one either. So,
gotta add that to the list.
It's a long list.
I know, but you do have a real list, and I respect that, because I also do that. I have the same thing. Like, there's just too much on TV and too much in movie theaters to keep up. So I've started having an actual like notes app that is a real list that I try to check off.
Yeah, I have my movies list and I have my TV show list. And so
I got movies, TV shows, and documentaries. I've got like a third category.
Ooh, I might need to add documentary, because the new basketball one about Court of Gold on Netflix is on there. Yeah. And I've seen like half of episode 1, and then I got busy.
Exactly, yeah. You just can't, I mean, there's too much. You can't possibly watch it all.
There's new content every day.
Yeah.
So if you're listening to this, thanks for choosing us as content.
Yeah, seriously.
We go back to this woman. She tells Morpheus that the line was traced, and Morpheus tells her to cut the hard line. There's no time. She'll have to get to another exit. The woman asks if there are any agents. There are, and we learn that her name is Trinity, and Morpheus tells her to focus. There's a phone at Wells and Lake. You can make it. Great. So we've answered some questions. This is, I'm assuming, the exact same woman from the very beginning of the film. The voice sounds the same. Everything is tracking, so we know that she is now Trinity. Still don't know who this other man is, and maybe we don't find out, and I'm okay with not finding out, because he was dumb and didn't realize that it wasn't a safe line or secure line. That's the words.
It's funny, too. I don't think I ever picked up on the specificity of Wells and Lake, but that's those are cross streets in Chicago. I don't remember if they ever like establish where this is supposed to be taking place, and then soon it becomes like, you don't know anything about anyone, but yeah, interesting. I just picked up on that.
Wells and Lake. Yeah.
There you go.
There we go. We might be in Chicago for all we know.
It
isn't specified, so yeah.
Right.
Then Trinity gets spotted by the suits as she's trying to leave. And instead of going down to make her escape, she goes above the buildings. Fair enough. She is smart. She knows that downstairs, probably lots of cops. Let's go on the rooftops. And then this is where I was like, okay, some of these cops don't really make it. And then is it just me, or are Trinity and the suit extremely fast? And then as they're running, they jump like a 4-lane street. And I'm like, oh no, physics just doesn't exist. Okay, great. So
yeah, you're already picking up on the dynamics of the film, which is, again, that like some people live by normal human rules and other people live by other rules. And it will be explained why that is the case.
And I'm interested on why the suits, who seem like police officers, but like higher end, they seem like they're not quite FBI, but they're like one of these secret divisions that we never actually hear of, kind of thing.
Well, I think it's more of like an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. sort of vibe.
Okay.
Is like a better way to think of it.
Okay, great. Yes, that does help think of where they exist. Yeah. Lovely. So Trinity sees an opening. It is a tiny window. And she jumps over like 3 more streets and then dives through a tiny window and then forces herself to get up. Incredible. I don't know who did the stunt work for this, but definitely at episode 4, I'm going to do my best, ladies and gentlemen, to find out who all the stunt people were on this and give them a shout out. Because like this film, more than others, just in the first 2 minutes or first 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Like the stunt work, incredible.
I mean, it's the reason that they should add that as like an Oscar category. And I know they actually did for the SAG Awards. I think that's a new thing. And they've talked about doing it for the Oscars, like best stunt performance, because I mean, so many action movies that are iconic would not be possible without these stunt people just doing absurd things.
Oh yeah. And it's like, as much as actors, I don't know if you've ever had the pleasure of doing stunt work on camera.
In a very limited way. Like,
Okay.
I'm going to fall down, but not like, I'm going to do a backflip through a window.
Right. No backflips through a window. But like, I've done stage combat and I absolutely love it. But I also understand, like, I will do as much as possible, but I also understand, like, no, it's okay. Let the professional do their job.
Exactly.
Like, this is their job. Give them the flowers, give them the credit. But yeah, they deserve their own award. 100%. So we get to this phone booth, and it reminded me of the joke by Fluffy going, "Quick, take it down. Take a picture. Someone forgot to take it down," because you don't see that anymore.
Yeah.
And so we see the phone booth. She gets there, but so does this semi-truck. It looks like a semi-truck afterwards. It didn't look like one at the start. But the truck turns. They both face the booth. The phone rings. Both Trinity and the truck move towards the booth. Trinity answers the phone. The truck smashes into the booth. And I was immediately like, great, she'll be fine. They just want you to think that she didn't make it. But she did.
Right. Yeah.
Like, there's no way that she didn't. It's not possible.
Yeah, you would not introduce a character in that way only to have them die like 2 minutes into the movie.
Well, I mean, I think it was... Is it Scary Movie? No, it's not Scary Movie. It's one of these Halloween movies that does do that. And I just watched it this Halloween with friends, but I can't even remember which one it was. Scream. Scream. Where, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen Scream, but the main actress, like, or one of the main ones, dies in like the first 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So it's just like,
I forget.
okay.
I've only seen that film once. I don't know it as well. But yeah, that's kind of a fun trick because like no one expects that to happen. It's like, oh, this is a movie star. They're not going to just die immediately, and then they do.
Right. I recently, for a different show, watched the Suicide Squad, and it reminded me of like that and like Deadpool 2, where you have like, the X-Force or all of these different teams on the Suicide Squad, and it's like, we have all these big name actors and they're on screen for 30 seconds.
Right.
Have you seen that?
Have you seen The Departed?
The Departed. Maybe? I don't think so.
It's like a Boston mob movie with, I mean, the cast is ridiculous. It's like Matt Damon, Leo DiCaprio, Jack Nicholson.
I have never seen Jack Nicholson and Leonardo DiCaprio on screen together, so I'm going to say no.
Oh my gosh.
I'll add it to the list.
This is just going to be a podcast of adding. That's of the things I've mentioned so far, that's like a truly iconic film.
Fair. Yeah. This is the majority of how at least episode 1s go, is just my guests just telling me to watch more things. Yeah.
Just real quick, give me like 1 minute of context. Why are there so many things that you haven't seen? You just never had interest? You're an actor, but you didn't have interest in seeing films?
So as an actor, I just got into it. So I was a band kid growing up, and I was playing in bands and everything. And then freshman year, my band teacher walked in and was like, they need more guys to make a musical happen. And I was like, all right, cool. I had nothing else going on, so I went and did the musical. I enjoyed it. I kept doing it. And then I went to college, took a year and a half off of acting and like doing creative things. And I still played music, but I took a year and a half off, went back to it because I had a broken foot. And my friend was like, hey, we need someone to make something happen. You can be on crutches for it, but just show up. And I enjoyed it. So then I just got back into it, and I just kept doing it, and I just kept enjoying doing it. But growing up, my family was never a big movie watching family.
Interesting.
And when we did watch movies, my family is from India. And so my parents were like, great, we're going to watch something in Telugu, or we're going to watch something in Hindi. You're going to know the culture that you came from.
Right.
So I flip around and I'm like, hold on. But on the flip side, like, I have seen a lot of these classic Bollywood movies that none of my friends in America have seen.
Well, no wonder you didn't have time to watch American movies. All those movies are 8 hours long.
Right. I mean, look, my favorite movie is Lagan, and it's 3 hours and 45 minutes long.
And that's short. That's a short Bollywood film.
Yeah, totally. So, like, yeah, I was busy watching that, and so that's just kind of why I never watch stuff. And then I write music, I act, I do podcasts, and so I'm just busy most of the time, and I try to keep myself busy, and I just never became a really big movie person. I always enjoyed TV shows more than movies, and so my list of TV shows I need to watch. It's still long, but it is significantly shorter than the list of movies I need to watch.
Okay.
So, yeah. 1 minute context. But yeah, back into back into the movie. So Trinity, we're sure, is okay. The suits get out. They're looking at the rubble. Hey, look, she got out. Whoop-de-doo. And the suits say that it doesn't matter. The informant is real. So now I'm thinking that this guy is the informant. I don't know yet. We know that the name of the next target is Neo, and that the suits have already begun searching for him. And I just came up with a whole list of questions after this scene.
Yeah.
So, and some answers. I did find some answers. I know that the girl's name is Trinity. Neo is who they were watching. Fantastic. It seems like the film is going to be Morpheus and company versus the suits. Still confused on what we're doing here and why we are fighting each other. But it feels like these are our two factions that we are going to fight. Neo is going to be a factor into this, and Neo is going to join Morpheus and company. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a film. It would be a very different film than what I'm thinking is going to be happening. But I don't understand, why Neo might be the savior and why Morpheus thinks he's a savior. I'm assuming, like I said, Neo ends up with Morpheus to fight against the government, is who I'm assuming the suits are, but they might not be government. They might be some other type of agency, as you were saying. And otherwise, it's going to be very different. And who's the informant is my big question right now. And why did they turn?
Well, you've already correctly identified who the good guys and bad guys are. Yeah. Which, I mean, I feel like that's pretty intuitive once you get that far into the movie. But that is, the central kind of battle of the film is the suits versus the whole cohort of Morpheus and Trinity and so on and so forth.
Totally. It definitely makes it very clear from the get-go. These are the people you should be rooting for. These are the people you should not be rooting for. It doesn't feel like one of those morally ambiguous ones where you're like, but the villain makes sense.
No. There's no ambiguity there.
Right. It's not Thanos where you're like, hey, his idea was sound. His way of going about it, very wrong.
A little callous, but there are too many people.
There are too many people. Maybe double the food and not half the population.
Sure,
but
sure.
Look, the idea was there. He was just a little misguided.
Yeah.
So we transition over to a sleeping Neo, and he's in front of his computer, and his computer was originally just showing news or pictures of. It looked like the news to me. I couldn't quite tell what it was. It was changing fairly quickly. But then it changes to some text that says, "Wake up, Neo." And Neo starts to wake up and sees this, and now is just suddenly up. I don't know about you, but I am not the type of person that if I see something, I am just immediately awake if I am trying to read something.
Right. No, yeah, almost never.
Neo seems like the type of person that he wakes up, he's ready to go, immediately.
Yeah. Doesn't need to wash his face, doesn't need to brush his teeth.
Nothing. Just up and at it. Let's go. Then the text says, "The Matrix has you. Follow the white rabbit." Neo, what the hell? Me, valid. I'm surprised he hasn't checked to see if he's dreaming yet.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, the thing about Keanu Reeves, and a lot of people give him shit and they say he's not a good actor, but he could not have been more perfect for this film and the Matrix series in general, because really all he does is say very little and look very cool. Because he always has that kind of California, as I recall that scene, he has the very what the hell? That kind of, just that Keanu way about him. I don't know how many other Keanu films you've seen, but he's always some version of that guy.
Oh yeah, I've seen quite a few. I've seen all the Bill and Ted movies.
Nice.
Which are
even the new one.
Wonderful. Even the new one. I watched all of them during COVID with one of my roommates when I was in London. We had 2 months of pretty much just the two of us at home.
Yeah.
We had plenty of time because classes weren't in session.
Exactly.
So that's honestly where I started watching movies and where I started getting the idea for this show.
Cool.
Was just him sitting there and being like, all right, we're going to educate you on films. So shout out to Sean, who started me on the journey of watching things. But yeah, so I've seen those, and then I've seen, he was in. I haven't seen any of the John Wick movies,
Mm-hmm.
but there was something else that he was in that I have seen, and now I'm blanking on it.
Yeah.
But I've seen now, I guess, 1.25 of his major franchises. Well, if you can count it as a quarter, if I've watched a quarter of a film.
I mean, I've only ever seen the first John Wick, so if that makes you feel
okay,
better.
Great.
I liked it. I just haven't gotten around to seeing the other ones.
Look, here's what I know about John Wick. Don't mess with this dog. Cool.
Do not mess with his dog.
And honestly, just don't mess with any person's dog. Like, just don't do that. Nobody needs that in their life.
Agreed.
Now, we hear a knock at the door, and Neo then asks who it is. It's Choi. Choi is 2 hours late. Neo's given $2,000. He returns with, is it a tape or is it drugs? I could not figure out what it was.
I'm pretty sure it's tape.
Tape. Okay.
Or a tape, yes.
Or a tape of something that Choi wasn't supposed to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Okay. So he hands him a tape and says, if you get caught, this never happened, you don't exist. Fair enough. That's a fair enough rule.
Yes.
Choi asks if Neo's okay. He looks a little whiter than usual. I love this because Choi also looks very white.
Well, not in relation to Choi, but in relation to, Neo generally. It has nothing to do with Choi's whiteness or lack of whiteness.
It didn't. I just enjoyed that, like, this was the phrase, and I was like, ah. And I was just like, yes, Neo, you do look paler. And to Keanu Reeves' credit, he is a fairly pale human being.
Mm-hmm.
Like, nothing like it. Like, that's just his skin tone. Like, he can't control it. He has no control over that. That's his life. So Neo then asks if he's ever had a feeling, like he isn't sure if he's awake or dreaming. So I'm like, okay, so you have the feeling, but you don't check if you're dreaming. What are you doing here, Neo? Check if you're dreaming. Like,
well,
pinch
how
yourself,
would
something.
he do that? Yeah, I was gonna say, what would the plan be if you were doing that?
Pinch yourself, smack yourself in the face, do something. But like, give us something. Like, don't just sit here and think. Don't brood.
Right.
And apparently, Choi has always had this feeling, and it is called mescaline. I have never heard of this. Have you?
I have. Yeah, it's like a drug that people used to use. I don't know exactly how it works, but I know that it's a drug.
Okay, cool. It's a drug. And apparently, it's the only way to fly. So that makes sense now that it's a drug.
Mm-hmm.
Choi says that he needs to unplug and get some R&R. And ask de jour, and I almost said Dijon, and I was like, that's mustard. So he asked de jour.
Yes, it's not mustard, and it's also not mescaline, which is like a type of lettuce.
Right, and it's also not mezcal, which is a type of alcohol.
Yes, no, it is not that either. That will make you fly, but not as high.
No. It is a fun time, but yeah. I still prefer, like, tequila, if I'm going that direction. But, yeah, Neo says no, and de jour is like, come on, it'll be fun. And she's, like, flirting with Choi as she says this. And Neo then sees the white rabbit tattoo on her shoulder and says, okay, I'll go. So
he was told to follow the white rabbit, so.
The man follows instructions, so yes, at least currently. We're at a club, and I have been to many clubs. I have never been to a club like this. I guess these are the fancy high roller clubs for people who are dropping $2,000 on a tape.
Right, and also people who are like in that kind of weird like goth party world. Like they depict it as like that sort of vibe.
Yeah, not where I've ended up in my life, but cool, fun vibe. Seems like a good time. A woman walks up to him and says hello, and I was like, she knows his name is Neo immediately. And I was like, is this Trinity? And then I hit play, and then she says, I'm Trinity. And I was like, I had to wait. So we find out that this is the same Trinity that hacked the IRS D-base. I looked this one up. This seems like it's just something in the Matrix, to my understanding.
Yeah, I don't think that means anything that we're supposed to understand. I mean, other than IRS, but
right. The D-base, sure, it's something that the IRS has in this world.
Mm-hmm.
And this was a long time ago. Neo thought that Trinity was a guy. Most guys do.
Right.
Sexist. How dare you? A woman can be very good at her job.
Yeah, now, and kicking chairs and... I mean, we see this as like a recurring theme, right? In the first 10 minutes of the movie, we have both the cop saying like, I think we can handle one little girl, and then Neo meeting her and assuming that she was a guy.
She is by far currently my favorite character because
She's great,
I am
yeah.
like, tell me more about you. How did you end up here? Because like the others, I can kind of piece together. We're gonna see how Neo ends up here. Great, fantastic. Like, I'm sure that we're gonna get the background on Morpheus if he's the leader of this entire group. But I want to know about Trinity, and I'm gonna be really upset if I don't get to learn more about Trinity.
No, we learn more about everyone. I feel like you'll get the context that you want.
Beautiful, lovely. Now, Neo asks how she did that to his computer, and she says that right now, all she can tell him is that he is in danger, and that she brought him here to warn him. They are watching him, and Neo asks who. Trinity just tells him to listen, and gets extremely close to him and in his ear, and says, I know why you're here, Neo. I know what you've been doing. I know why you hardly sleep, why you live alone, and why night after night you sit at your computer. You're looking for him. It feels uncomfortably close as she is doing this. Like, she is like whispering into his ear, almost like if you look as a bystander, it looks like they are feeling each other up, is the best way to describe how close they are standing to each other.
Yeah.
And so she knows this because she was once looking for him. And once she found him, he told her that she wasn't looking for him. I was never the answer. And it's the question that drives us. It's the question that brought you here. What is the question? What is the Matrix? Okay, so we have an answer, but we're looking for this guy, and I'm assuming this is Morpheus. But I'm still very confused on what the Matrix actually is. But how does Neo already know what this is? Like, I don't understand how he already knows that this exists. Or is it just like a feeling? Like, how does he know what it's called?
I think it's more a feeling. I don't remember how exactly he reacts when she references the Matrix, but I think the point she's making in that scene is like, the reason that you're never satisfied and that you're constantly like looking for something is that you don't know what you're looking for, but I'm telling you what it is and who it is. And that is the answer to your questions, is that without realizing it, you have been looking for this like big answer to something.
Okay. So like the feeling aspect makes sense to me. But what's still confusing me is how he knows that it's called the Matrix.
Well, the only explanation I would have is that we can already tell at this point that he's into some sort of like illegal activities and like coding, and he's in kind of like an online world. And so my best guess would be that it's something that is like referred to within that community, even if people don't know exactly like what it means or what it is.
Okay, so like he might have just heard the phrase.
Right.
Like,
we're not supposed to think
somewhere.
that he knows like what it actually is, because he doesn't. And we don't either. Beautiful.
So now we're at work the next day, and we're late for work. Fantastic. And he's being reprimanded for being late.
Relatable.
Yeah. I've been late countless times. Yeah, it happens. He's getting reprimanded, and the boss says that, you think you're special. He's really leaning into him. And the boss just goes, it's time to make a choice. Choose your desk at work on time, or choose to find another job. Fairly straightforward choices.
Yeah, laying down the law.
Yeah. And as the boss, he's just doing his job. I can't fault the boss here.
No.
We learn that his legal name is Thomas Anderson, and that he gets a package, and inside, it's a phone, and it immediately rings. Hey, look, it's Morpheus. Okay, sure, why not? And Morpheus...
Also, I love the detail of that old phone that like kind of snaps open.
Oh, yeah. My first
like a Motorola phone?
Yeah, my first phone was one of those slide phones that you could like slide up. I would forget it all the time.
Like the LG chocolate that you could like slide up and down?
Yeah, something like that. Like it was one of those off-brand ones. Like it was, I think it was a Motorola was my first one. My sister's first one was a flip one that it was called a Pebble. And it was this little green phone, and it looked like a Pebble.
Oh my god.
But yeah, they were fun. I do love it. I don't feel like it dates the movie. Sometimes I'm like when I see things like
it takes you out of it.
It takes me out of it. It doesn't feel like it takes me out of it. It's just like, all right, cool, because I think everything else is so in the time period that it's just like, great, this is just part of the time period.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, but there's something about the way they film that that I feel like people would parody a lot. Like the whole, you open a FedEx package, you have a phone, it rings, and then it's like pops open and he picks it up.
Picks it up. Yeah. Nah, it was very fun of it
Yeah,
just
it's a cool scene.
popping open as it rings. And Morpheus says that, I think you know who it is. Neo immediately knows that this is Morpheus. Cool. Don't question it.
Morpheus?
It's he says like 5 lines, I think,
Yeah.
in the first like 30 minutes of the film.
That's all you need.
It's all you need from Keanu Reeves. You need him to be the action star that he is.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Morpheus says that he has been looking for Neo and doesn't know if Neo is ready to see what he wants to show him, but they have run out of time. They are coming for him, and he doesn't know what they are going to do to him. And Neo, poor guy, he's just like, who's coming? And it's just like, the suits. And Morpheus tells him to stand up. He stands up, he sees them, and he says that I can save you and I can guide you out of here, but you must do exactly as I say. So this is the set of instructions that we are given. First, he has to move to the cubicle across so that the suits do not see him. He goes to the end of the row on the opposite wall to stay low. He gets into a room and then goes to the window to open it. Morpheus tells him to use the scaffolding to get to the roof. Neo chimes in and goes, "You're crazy." There are 2 ways out of this building. 1 is the scaffolding outside. 2 is the suits in their custody. Morpheus leaves the decision up to Neo and then hangs up the phone. Are there not more instructions once he gets to the roof?
I tell you, what this scene really illustrates is how nice Bluetooth technology is. I mean, if he had AirPods and he didn't have to hold on to the phone the whole scene, the whole thing might have been easier.
Right? So much easier. He wouldn't have dropped his phone as he, is out on this windowsill trying to crawl his way over to this scaffolding. We wouldn't have had this issue. Like Bluetooth, thank you. Yeah. Very helpful. Now, the suits end up getting him somehow. We don't actually see how they catch him, but they do notice Trinity on a bike outside as well. So, again, not really sure what the solution was here, because if it's scaffolding, my assumption would be he's going to the roof and not the ground.
I think the idea is maybe if he gets on the scaffolding, he can get to like another part of the building that the suits aren't in, and then he would be able to like get down that way.
But wouldn't the suits just be able to go use the elevator?
We're just supposed to believe that Morpheus knows what he's doing. Yeah, he didn't really finish the directions.
No, he did not. This is the type of things that I notice as I'm watching it with a fine-tooth comb. He's like, what was the end goal here, Morpheus?
Why did Morpheus leave? Did he have like another important call that he had to get to?
Yeah. He had to call Trinity and be like, get on that bike. I don't know. Meanwhile, Neo's been captured. It's interrogation time. We're going to take a quick intermission and come right back to it. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Post Finale as we go through the Matrix movie. If you are enjoying this episode, please leave a like, a comment, a review, a rating, subscribe, follow us. It really does help out whatever platform you are listening on, or if you are on YouTube and you are watching us on YouTube. It really does help us out a lot. And thank you all to everyone who has already done that. Thank you to anyone who will do that in the future. If you want to gain access to some bonus content, you can do so. Head over to patreon.com/coopforge. So that's patreon.com/CO_OPFORGE. Sign up for any of the tiers there, and you get different bonus content. We're changing how some of the content looks on there, but you get content not just for this show, but you also get content for Flip the Scripts, which is our other show here with Co-op Forge. So you get content for all of that, bonus content available there, and you get a shout out on both of our shows. And thank you all so much for supporting. If you are, and if you are not able to support in a monetary way, but you still want to support the show in a non-monetary way, that is fantastic. Please tell a friend about the show. Reach out and be like, hey, there's this actor and singer who hasn't seen a lot of films, and so he's watching films for the first time and guessing what's going on, and it's a fun time overall. Go check it out. It really does help us out a lot. Be sure to follow us on social media at Co-op Forge, CO_OPFORGE on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook, and at Post Finale Pod on Instagram. Be sure follow us, talk about us on social media. That helps us out a lot as well. But just thank you so much for listening to this episode. And I say, let's get back into it talking. But thank you so much for listening to this episode. And before we jump back into talking about The Matrix, I just got one other housekeeping thing. If you are all listening to this and would like to come see me as Oliver in a production of Oliver in Seattle, that is happening March 21st through April 5th. The link to tickets and more information for that is down in the description. It's a really fun production and we're having a lot of fun with it. So be sure, come check that out if you're in the Seattle area, March 21st through April 5th. And if you are coming to the show, let me know and I would love to meet up afterwards. But thank you so much for listening to this episode, and let's get back into talking about The Matrix. So we're back, and it's interrogation time. They have had their eye on him for a while, and we learn that Neo has been living two lives. One life, Thomas A. Anderson, a program writer and a One life, Thomas A. Anderson, a program writer for a respectable software company. He has a social security number, has paid his taxes, helped the landlady by taking out the garbage. Why is the suit making it sound like taking garbage out for your landlady is a crime?
Well, the thing is that Agent Smith, I think his name is, he has a very specific cadence. So like everything he says sounds very ominous. And so it's like, you helped your landlady as she's taking out the garbage. Like he has this kind of weird pattern of speaking.
It's a very interesting and it's a very powerful pattern of speaking as well. And like immediately from the first time we see him, even with those cops, I do feel the okay, like this is the head honcho of whatever is going on. Everyone defers to him. He knows it. Like, okay, he is our villain. Like we are not supposed to agree with him.
And without saying too much, I think it's also a very intentional thing that he doesn't sound quite like a normal human should sound. Like he's speaking English,
little but robotic.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Now, I did also like how they wanted to say a respectable software company, but they didn't want to give free advertising to any software company, but they were also too lazy to come up with their own name for a fake software company.
Yeah. I guess maybe it's more effective if it's vague, like, you know, we're just giving the general specs of your life. You're like an engineer, you work for a respectable company, you do X, Y, Z in one half of your life, and in the other half, you know.
In the other half, you're into computers and you go by the hacker name Neo, and you're guilty of virtually every computer crime we have a law for.
Right.
So like, yeah, no, it completely works. I just found that funny of like, I like how the writers really didn't want to come up with a fake name.
Yeah.
He was like, nah, that's too much work. So, now, we learn from the suits that one life has a future, one life does not. And the suit is forthcoming and tells him that he is here because he needs his help. And he takes off his glasses. Things are about to get serious.
Oh, yeah.
Woo! The suits know that Morpheus has contacted him, and whatever Neo knows is irrelevant, and Morpheus is actually considered by many authorities to be the most dangerous man alive, and the suit's colleagues believe that he is wasting his time, but the suit does not believe so. And the reason I keep calling him Suit is I don't know that his name is Agent Smith, like you said. It's not really a spoiler that his name is Agent Smith, but like, I just haven't learned this information, and the subtitles didn't help. So
no, yeah, I don't, and I think it doesn't really matter what their names are. Like, you get the dynamic.
Exactly, and like their name does. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. We'll get to it, but like sometimes the subtitles, and I almost always watch everything with subtitles nowadays. Just in general, I'm just growing up watching Bollywood films.
Well, of course, yeah. I used to give my dad such a hard time because he wanted to watch everything with subtitles, and then at some point in recent years it switched where like I'm now that, and I'm like, I don't know if it's an age thing or just nobody knows how to sound mix anymore, or I'm just like missing things, but I pretty much exclusively watch stuff with subtitles at this point.
Yeah, it's definitely, I feel lost when I'm sometimes watching stuff without subtitles. Like, if I'm listening to a podcast episode on YouTube, which is rare, I normally listen to them on Spotify, but if I'm listening like on YouTube or if I'm watching a YouTube video, I don't always have subtitles.
Right.
But if I'm watching anything where I'm like sitting and watching like a TV show or a movie, subtitles.
Yes.
If they are available. And if they are not, I will still watch the thing, but I will cry internally the entire time.
Well, yeah, it's hard going to the movies anymore because it's like, unless you go to one of the screenings that has subtitles, which they actually do have, you're just watching a movie without it. And it's like, if you've gotten used to having that, you feel like you're missing half of the plot sometimes.
Right. My main reason for not going to the movies anymore is they're extremely expensive now. And
they are very expensive.
Like, I can't spend $20 a week to go watch a movie, even though I might want to.
Well, you can always get, I mean, they've got like the AMC or the Regal Pass. It's only like $26
Yeah, I also
month.
got to find that time to go do that.
That's
thing.
true, yes. Clearly, you've got a lot of things to catch up on that aren't in theaters right now.
Yeah, right. I have a long list. Like, I am never scrapped for what I need to be watching.
Right.
Now, the music builds, the tension builds, and, you know, Neo is saying that he wants his phone call. And he's just like, I know my rights. Give me my phone call. I'll give you the finger. Give me my phone call. And the suits are disappointed. He puts his glasses back on and he's just like, well, how can you be scared by Gestapo crap? Neo says that he can't be scared by this Gestapo crap and knows his rights. He wants his phone call. My guess here is that he's going to try to call somebody, but then it's going to be Trinity or Morpheus that's actually on the other end. Like, they're going to intercept the call in some way. This is not what happens, and this changes immediately, and I am immediately wrong. The suit says, what good is a phone call if you are unable to speak? Music and tensions build again.
And he says it in his very creepy way.
Oh, yeah.
What good is a phone call if you're unable to speak?
And it's so slow. The tempo of his speech is, I think, the biggest thing. It's not even the fact that he doesn't have the inflections that people normally do when we're talking, but it's the fact that he speaks at such a slow tempo.
Right.
And it adds this like ominous feeling to every single
Yes, he's saying
word.
something scary and like ominous and frightening, but just in a very calm tone, and that makes it scarier. That he's not like yelling this at him. He's just like saying it very casually, like, yeah, what good is a phone call if you're unable to speak?
Like,
then
he truly owns all the power in the room.
Oh yeah.
And then skin starts growing over Neo's face. He can't scream. Now his face is complete, like his mouth. And his mouth is completely patched up. He can't say anything. It is masked pretty much. And the suits pin him down, pull out some type of insect device, which then burrows deep into Neo's belly button.
Yeah. Have you, so what I always liked about that scene is like, I don't know if you've ever had a nightmare where like you realize you're in a dream, but you try to yell and like nothing comes out. I feel like that scene very much captures what that feels like when you're in like a scary situation and you just feel like you can't. It's like such a scary feeling to feel like you can't make a sound.
Oh, totally. I've had the dream where it feels like I'm falling, but I can't scream.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But it is apparently all a dream, or at least that's what they want us to believe. And they want us to believe that it is all a dream. Definitely did not see that. I thought that this was a dream. I thought this was all real. I don't know. We'll find out. Now, the phone rings. It's Morpheus. The lines tap. And the suit has gotten to him first, but they have underestimated how important Neo actually is. And so now I'm like, wait, does he currently have this robotic bug or not? I don't know. We'll figure this out. Morpheus tells him that he is the one, and Neo has spent the last few years looking for him, but Morpheus has spent his entire life looking for Neo. Neo wants to meet and is told to go to the Adam Street Bridge. Is that another place in Chicago by chance?
That I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
We don't know.
But I just recognize Clark and Lake.
That's fair. There are also a lot of bridges in Chicago. So
true.
Yeah. There are plenty. Now, Trinity shows up in a car under this bridge. It is pouring down rain outside. And oh look, a gun held by who I'm gonna name Blondie. Don't know his name, but he has blonde hair.
Yeah, Blondie.
We're back to Blondie. For anyone that watched The Terminator, that's also what I named the main character in The Terminator for a while, because I just named him Blondie. because I didn't know his name for a very long time. So, we're back. We have another Blondie. Now, the gun is necessary for their own protection from Neo, and they don't have time for 20 questions. It's our way or the highway. Neo thinks of getting out, but Trinity stops him and says that he must trust her. She knows that he has been down the road and knows that this is not where he wants to be. They pull out this massive device, tell him to relax, and then stick the massive device on him. Last I checked, not usually the best way to tell someone to relax, but yeah, we'll see. Now, he has been bugged. Apparently, none of that was a dream. The thing was real. I love Keanu's line here because he shows the most emotion that I've seen in this entire film, where he yells, "Jesus Christ, that thing was real."
Yeah, he has literally been bugged in the most literal sense of what that could mean.
Yeah. And I was just like, I feel that, buddy. Now, the last thing that we're talking about today is we finally get to meet Morpheus. And he's now debugged. Everything is safe. He can be here. I don't really know who Morpheus is, so I am excited about this. We get to an old building, and we have a chessboard pattern on the floor. That was the best way I could describe it.
Yeah.
I just thought that it looked like a chessboard, and I was like, I kind of want to play giant chess. This looks fun. Now, Trinity gives him advice. Just be honest, and Morpheus knows more than you can ever imagine. Morpheus welcomes Neo, and the honor is both of theirs to meet each other. Aw, so sweet, so regal and kind. Morpheus has Neo sit down, shuts the doors, and Morpheus imagines that Neo must feel like Alice. And I hit pause and I go, Alice in Wonderland? And then I hit play and Morpheus goes, falling down the rabbit hole. And I was like, oh,
nice.
Yep. All right.
Which other Alice would it have been?
I do not know.
Alice Cooper.
Alice Cooper. Yes. Yeah, no, I don't know what other Alice it would have been, but I don't know. Maybe there's another Alice. I haven't seen as you put together so much. So who knows? There might be another famous Alice that I'm just not remembering. Now, Neo apparently has the look of a man who has accepted what he sees because he is expecting to wake up. This is not far from the truth, and Morpheus believes that and then Morpheus asks if he believes in fate. Neo does not, because he does not like the idea that he is not in control of his life. And I understand that. That's fair enough.
Yeah.
Morpheus understands this and tells him that Neo is here because he knows something. He can't explain it, but he can feel it, and he has felt it his entire life. Something is wrong with the world, like a splinter in his mind driving him mad. This feeling brought him here, and, he's here to learn, and Neo knows what the answer is, and knows that the answer is the Matrix. So, like we were talking about earlier, he seems to have known what this word is, but doesn't really know what it is. So, Morpheus asks if he wants to know what it is. Neo nods. Neo says yes. And then we get, finally, an explanation of what is the Matrix. What is this thing that we are talking about this entire film? The Matrix is everywhere. It is all around us. You can see it when you look out a window or when you turn on your TV. You feel it when you go to work, when you go to church, when you pay your taxes. It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. Neo asks what truth? And Morpheus continues saying that you are a slave, Neo. Like everyone else, you were born into bondage. Born into a prison that you cannot smell or taste or touch. A prison for your mind. And that is terrifying to actually think about. Like, as a concept, heavy stuff. Did not think that we were dealing with, like, that level of heaviness when I was thinking simulation.
Right.
I don't know what I was thinking, but it wasn't this. I wasn't thinking that we were prisoners to our own minds in this world.
Right.
And who knows?
Yeah,
I do know that, like, there are theories after this movie came out and people started thinking, like, oh, what if this is actually all true and, like, whatnot. I don't believe that it is, but also as Morpheus says, this is not something that you can teach people. This is something that you either have or you don't have. No one can be told what the Matrix is. You have to see it for yourself. So if it is real, I definitely don't see it, and I'm very happy not knowing.
Exactly, yes. Ignorance is bliss, I think. And that's kind of like a theme of this film that will be explored more as like, even if you knew the truth, would you want to know it? Or would you rather just like live your life and be comfortable and be like, I'm just not going to think about it?
Right. And both things, very valid takes.
Sure.
Whichever you prefer. And for each person, it's going to be different. Yeah. I have enough things going on. If my life is a simulation, it definitely don't feel like one because I'm running around like a headless chicken half the time.
Yeah, exactly.
So, we're good. I have enough chaos. So Morpheus then takes out a container and places it on a table. And he tells Neo that this is his last chance and there is no turning back. And I wrote in my notes in all caps, "Oh, it's pill time!" And as soon as I wrote that, I go, this is not a sentence I thought I was going to be writing down today.
No, but there you are.
It's pill time. We finally learn which pill is doing what. And I was right in terms of what I was thinking these pills are doing. The blue pill means that the story ends, wake up in bed, believe whatever you want to believe. The red pill, stay in Wonderland, and I will show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. I like the metaphor of this being Alice in Wonderland. It's a way to connect it. It's a story that I think, even if you don't know, most people have heard of Alice in Wonderland. And so they have the general concept. So I like that they're setting it up of like, okay, like you are here. This is what you know currently as an audience. We're going on this journey. And I think setting it up in a way of like, understand that this is a rabbit hole. You are going deep. It's going to become more and more and more insane and crazy. And like things are going to be stretched and boundaries are going to be pulled. And I think it's very interesting that like they're setting this up from the beginning, being like, all right, this is what you're getting into. Most people as an audience will have a general understanding of what a rabbit hole is in Alice in Wonderland. So you can think of our journey similar to that.
Right.
And so
that's where you stopped?
So I stopped right after this. Neo thinks a moment. He goes in, he reaches for the red pill. And before he grabs it, Morpheus reminds him that he is offering nothing more than the truth. And I do appreciate this. I appreciate that Morpheus is very clear in what he is offering. And he's like, hey, I'm only offering you the truth. I'm not offering you salvation. I'm not offering you I'm not offering you the solution to what you're looking for. You might not find that. I can only offer you facts. And I appreciate that like he does take that moment. Incredible shot of us seeing Neo picking up the red pill through the frames of Morpheus's glasses.
Yeah, that's a really cool one.
I loved that shot. It was
because Morpheus is wearing those glasses that like don't have a
they don't have a rim.
Yeah.
And I don't think they have the part of the glasses that go over
that's what I was talking
ears.
about. Yeah.
Great. For anyone that's listening on a non-video form, neither Adam or I are wearing glasses. I don't know if you do, but like neither of us are. So don't know what that's called, but like that's the portion that we're talking about.
Yeah, the part that goes over your ears is not there. It's just the frames and then, a nose holder.
And then a nose holder. Like and I was intrigued because the way that it was shot as well. Where did they put that camera?
Because it's hard to do that without getting the camera in the shot. So I'm sure there's some sort of movie magic.
So I'm very curious on what that movie magic was for this one. And sometimes
it's a great shot, though.
I'm not always intrigued, but like this one intrigues me.
Yeah.
I don't know. Neo takes the red pill. He downs the glass of water. Morpheus says, "Follow me." And that's where I stopped. I don't know anything else. I don't know what's going on. I have a guess, and we'll get into that before we end this episode. But I did want to point out, that was exactly the 30-minute mark of the film.
Cool. That's a hell of a first 30 minutes.
I was impressed, because like normally I don't hit exactly 30 minutes, and I think I hit pause, and it was like 29:28. And I was like, oh.
I mean, it's like the literal first act.
Yeah.
Yeah.
First act, we're about to jump into a rabbit hole. We're going to get some answers finally.
Yeah.
This is where I think we're going. I'm not sure. And you get to enjoy, I guess whatever this is. I don't know. But here's what I think is going to be happening. We're going to go down the rabbit hole. And I just have like vague ideas of what is going on. Because I don't know any specifics of anything of what is actually our conflict currently. All I know is that the Matrix exists and we're about to get some answers. And we have a good and a bad team. That's all I really know at the end of this. So we're going to go down into this rabbit hole. It's going to go very deep. Deeper than I think I'm even imagining it. That it's going to go way deeper than Neo thinks that it goes. There's going to be some sort of device that can reveal the Matrix to others. And that's what the fight is going to be about. Because otherwise, I don't understand why the suits would call Morpheus a terrorist. Because if nobody can see it and they can only see it for themselves, then what are they fighting for? And what is like I'm guessing that like this Morpheus group is like a rebellion group of some sort if the government is looking at them as rebels and terrorists. There's some type of rebel group, but it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me why they're trying to maybe reveal the Matrix to the world. Like, what exactly is their goal? If you can't show people the Matrix, then you have a very limited number of soldiers that you could potentially have just from the get-go.
Right.
Your number is small. So I feel like there's got to be some sort of device that allows people to see the Matrix.
Yeah, I mean, I won't comment on whether or not your guesses are right, because I don't want to do that to you, but I will say that you are correct that however high you think the stakes are, they're higher.
They're higher. Yeah, I love that. And I love that. The suits are corrupt. I'm assuming there are some corrupt suits. And they're corrupt in some way, shape, or form. Don't really know how, but I feel like they're corrupt. They just give me that feeling, that vibe. And there will be a lot of fighting. Very cool effects. I'm very looking forward to that. That's just a general thing that I know. In the end, Neo, Morpheus, and company will win. But whatever it is will either be a short-lived victory or a bitter victory. I don't think it's going to be like it'll be a happy ending, but there will be tragedy along the way.
A happy ending, but at a cost.
Yes, there will be some, and it's got to be a big cost. I don't know what that cost is yet. Maybe Trinity doesn't make it out. And currently, if I'm going to pick someone that doesn't make it out of this film, if that's the cost, it would be Trinity. Because I'm pretty sure that Lawrence Fishburne is in the other ones, and I know that Keanu Reeves is in the other ones.
Yeah, exactly.
So if I'm going on the assumption that the cost is someone's life, then Trinity is the friend that I sadly think we are bidding adieu to. But I might be wrong, and I really hope I'm wrong. I hope we meet another friend that we fall in love with that then passes away. Okay, let's be fair. I don't hope that anyone dies. That's not the goal here.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where I'm at. I don't really know what's going on. But yeah.
But it's the sort of thing where, like, even separate from this podcast, if you watch the first half hour of that, you would want to finish it, right?
Oh, yes. I am very much in the sense of I want to finish this. And I need answers, and I need to set up the next session for recording times so that I could get my answers.
Yeah, exactly.
But, I just want some answers. But yes, Adam, thank you so much for joining today.
You're welcome. Yeah,
really means the world. If people want to find you in your life doing the various projects that you do, how can they follow you? How can they keep up to date with what you're doing?
Yeah, as long as you can spell my first and last name, I'm pretty easy to find. I'm Adam Mamawala on all the socials. I'm sure you'll plug that, but I'm probably the most active on Instagram. You can find me on TikTok as well, X occasionally, even though I still call it Twitter. And if you go to my website, adammamawala.com/standup, that will be where you'll find all of the tour dates that I have. So when I'm traveling or when I'm doing stuff here in New York where I live, that's where all of that will be located.
Lovely. Yeah, we'll make sure and drop your website and the Instagram down in the description below for this episode if anyone wants to find that. And I will say, someone who does follow you on Instagram, you're a very fun follow on Instagram. I love seeing your stand-up comedy, and I look forward to you coming to Seattle. So
absolutely,
see you in person.
It's very high on my list. It's a place that I've not done, so I'm hoping to get out there.
Yeah.
Maybe a little Northwest run.
Yeah, I've been listening to Horse now for I think 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
And every time I'm like, "Ooh, I wonder if he's ever gonna come to Seattle." Not yet, but
Yeah, every
I'm
time we
looking
do our
forward to
plugs
it.
of which places we're touring. So
Yeah,
hopefully
yeah.
soon.
But yes, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for listening, and be sure to join us next week, where I guess we're gonna get some answers to what in the world is going on in the
Yes,
Matrix.
I look forward to you getting to watch the rest of this. It's very good.
Thank you. Until then, everyone, I'll catch y'all later. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Post Finale. Post Finale is created and hosted by me, Ankit Madhira. It is produced by Ankit Madhira and Stephen Nieman. The music is by Ankit Madhira and Megan Hutchison. The art is by Jarid Rother, and our editor is Servellon. If you like the show, please follow us on social media at Co-op Forge, CO_OPFORGE on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook to keep up to date on everything that's happening with the podcast. And you can also follow at Post Finale Pod on Instagram if you just want updates for this show. Talk about us on social media. It really does help us out a lot. And thank you to anyone who has done this in the past or who will do this in the future. If you want to support in a monetary way and get access to some bonus content, you can do so by heading over to patreon.com/coopforge. That's patreon.com/CO_OPFORGE. And all the money raised on that Patreon goes directly back into the show to make it a better experience for you, the listeners. We just want to create good content while not being in the red while doing so. And your support means the world to us. If you can support in a non-monetary way, that's great as well. Just tell a friend about the show. Word of mouth is the best way to grow the show, and it really does help us out a lot. Leave a rating or review, subscribe, follow on whatever podcast app you are listening on. If you're listening on our YouTube channel, Co-op Forge, please hit a follow. If you're listening on another app, if you could do us a favor and go hit us follow on our YouTube channel, it would help us out. If we hit 100 subscribers on our YouTube channel, we got a special thing coming out for you all. But until then, thank you all so much for listening to this episode of Post Finale, and be sure to join us next week as we get on to more shenanigans. And until then, I'll catch y'all later.